Commons-based pre-production is a phenomenon that we can observe in the digital era, a phenomenon where you have players collaborating through the internet and creating value, use value, things that are useful for people and companies and for the public sector, whatever. And it's not the production you can see inside companies, within companies, or in the public sector. It's totally different. It's organized in different ways with interoperability, modularity, and a certain amount of granularity. It means that every player is doing, a small part of the work, but they all have, a supervision of the work. They understand what the work is about, and it's not motivated for profit. They are doing that because they like to do that, or they want to do that, or they are getting famous by doing a good job, and they contribute to the project. So you have projects that are open, participatory with the new digital means, and they create not commodities, but use value for the whole of society. And something distinguishing this kind of work is that they have certain differences in the way they are managing IP. So they keep it open in order to boost the collaboration between the different players. So that's the most important thing. It's something that is somehow new. Well, I think the example that most of the people know is Wikipedia and probably Linux. Okay, so you see, these are very wide used things. I mean, everybody's using Wikipedia, and you can imagine that it's produced by volunteers, which are interconnected through a platform, a digital platform, and they have an institutional framework, which is the Wikimedia Foundation, that sets up the rules and coordinates all these projects. So the same happens with Linux. Linux started as, let's say, as a collaborative project among programmers, but it has maturated, having lots of people contributing to the free software and the open source code, which is not, nowadays, it's not only programmers, but also programmers paid by companies. Companies so also are participants. And you see that these large-scale projects, which are well known, create complex ecosystems of collaborations where you have groups, people, programmers, companies, and institutions, public, private, non-profit institutions. So it's a whole ecology, and they are all coordinated by the Linux Foundation or the Free Software Foundation, etc., for the development of the project. So you have the productive community, and you have an institutional framework around it, which what they do is that they manage the collaboration, and they keep the project on track and to the purposes that it was meant for. You can imagine now the consequences of this production. All the backbone of our digital society runs on Linux. It's Apache web server, it's the servers on the internet, supercomputers are on Linux. Embedded devices, your TV, your car, are running Linux. But Linux is a commons. It's not a typical commercial product. It's a commons, and has a role as a commons also for the industry, because it's the backbone of the industrial products. Well, if you think of the use value that is created through these collaborative processes, this value can be, let's say, the first material, the initial material that an SME can utilize to make new products. For example, if you have free software, you have already the basics, okay, given to you. It's a common infrastructure. It's a common infrastructure, and you have this for granted, and then you can build up your business plan by using already this technology. And this creates economy of scale for many industrial and enterprises and SMEs. And you have to think that this reserves you money from IP costs. You don't have to buy intellectual property in order to, evaluate, to build your own model, and you have less IP costs. So it's very good for small and medium-sized companies. And on the other hand, the second thing is that we are facing as Europe or as humanity a lot of challenges. Climate crisis, we have the recent pandemic, we have a lot of challenges concerning sustainability and resilience, industrial symbiosis, all these challenges, they cannot be addressed if everybody is doing things by himself. So commons-based production creates an environment, an ecosystem of collaboration. So if we could collaborate, at the same time we could still compete, but compete not in the core of the technology we're developing. Let's create this technology collaboratively, and this can be done through commons-based peer production. If we see commons-based peer production as something larger, where you don't have only individuals, but you have many players, states, public agencies, companies, all together, working together, creating a common technological infrastructure. This is what I call the industrial commons. It's not only technology, but it's also standards and common legislation for several things. So this is a way we can go forward and tackle a lot of the problems we are facing today. I will give you an example just to get an idea how this could work. It's a real example. It's occurring right now. It's called the Moonshot Project, and it's about the development of a drug against COVID. And what happens in this project is that various players, which includes Drug for Neglected Diseases Initiative and also some university departments and governmental organizations, etc. They have entered in a collaboration to create this drug. And the prerequisite is that this drug will be unpatented, which means it will be some kind of an open technology. And the project itself has set the goal to coordinate open scientific research, which means that there will be a free contribution of ideas from everywhere in the world, which means that these kind of projects that are open technology projects can easily crowdfund crowdsource the problem, the scientific problems. And if you address to humanity and in too many states and scientists, you can find a lot of people having answers to certain problems that are very peculiar or difficult to answer when you have a very small team of developers. And just to give you some numbers, it started in 2020, and by January 2021, they had already 14,000 contributions as compounds that putatively they could work against COVID. And the second thing that's important for this project is not only that it will be an unpatented drug, but it will be designed in a way that it will be easy to produce almost everywhere in the planet, which means that a company that is not, let's say, at the extremes of the technological knowledge would be able to synthesize a drug, maybe a Greek company, maybe a company from another country. And this is also in the mindset of this collaboration. So now they already have targets. They have a lot of targets. I mean, they have a lot of drugs which are designed, and they will soon step towards the clinical trials. So I don't know if there's going to be a successful result of all this effort, but the important thing is to realize how we can organize these things. And there was an initial funding, as I remember, from the Wellcome Trust, which is a non-profit that funds research, etc. And then I think there was another boost of money into the project. And I would say that this project succeeds, well, to the extent it has succeeded up to now, with a small amount of money comparing what a private company in the pharmaceutical sector could do with this money. Getting back now and talking about the institutional framework, it means that the European Union and the governments in Europe should recognize the value they can get from these initiatives and allocate part of the funding they give to research and technology towards this kind of institutional collaborative efforts. And also I would say that they can further proceed and organize an institutional framework in the frame of the EU for this kind of projects, which could not be only on health, but also in other challenges, in order to create public purpose technologies for, let's say, for issues that are of great public concern, like the epidemics. By definition, open technologies address to all players, whether they are persons, small enterprises, small companies, bigger companies, the government. So by definition, you have benefits at all levels. But there's a particular thing which is very interesting with open technologies. First of all, you can decide in the sectors and the goods you want to apply these technologies, and then make production of these goods, industrial production of these goods, much cheaper. And probably things that the government needs to purchase could become much cheaper, such as health care costs or diagnostics or things like that, because these are public goods. I mean, you have to offer the opportunity to your population to get cured, to protect its health, and we know that there is an exponential increase in costs in these kind of goods. So you can produce cheaper goods because they don't have a lot of IP embedded inside the price of the product. The second thing is that by definition, the design of these technologies, open technologies, is more ethical, because they are, let's say, they are democratically developed. They are democratically developed. I mean, there are many new ideas coming in from different parts, and these can protect the integrity of the whole project, because it's not a sole company for its own interests. It's a multi-played field where a lot of people is giving input. The third thing is that it's of mandatory importance for circular economy. Why? Because circular economy is not only about recycle things. It's about making things at the stage of the design of the products in a way that they are interoperable, they can be reused, and they have a long life as products. So this is something that open technologies can offer, because the ecosystem of the open development, it's not aiming by making a product which has several problems during design in order to, to sell after 2 or 3 years another product instead of that. So it somehow democratizes the whole system of technological solutions we are applying to production. And then it will help us apply the idea of circular economy at a more resilient way. Well, a final comment is that although we are observing all these benefits of commons-based peer production, there are certain problems. The most important problem is that many people contributing to these projects, they are not getting a reward. I mean, they cannot make a living out of it. We should see, because commons-based production is a kind of production that, people are working with passion, and it's a free decision to get engaged in this project. So they work with passion, and I would say they are most of the times very, very efficient. And we should give incentives to these people to dispense their time more in these passionate ways of production. So one way is to give more public funding to collaborative schemes that are working on these principles, and they are doing things for the public good. The second thing is that we are facing a future where we will have more automation. So this starts a circle of discussions about the working time. So I strongly advocate the idea of reducing working hours. And in my opinion, commons-based peer production is giving us the answer. What would happen? It's the question that Keynes has posed. What will happen with people that they will have more free time? So I think that when people will have more free time, they will still work, but for things that they're interesting for them. They get pleasure working on them. And a good idea would be that we should probably think on the same time reducing the working time, the waged working time, and on the other hand, producing the platforms, the facilities, and the public infrastructure that is needed in order to engage people that they want to voluntarily work in order to tackle issues and problems, create, cultural goods, or create even, technologies to be able to participate. So let's think also about the idea that the public sector could organize people in order to contribute more to this kind of passionate production.